Maya Rodriguez pressed her face against the cold metal of the ship's window. Outside, space stretched endlessly in all directions. Stars twinkled like tiny diamonds scattered across black velvet, but Maya wasn't looking at the stars. She was staring at the massive structure floating ahead of them. The Corthony Arena was bigger than any building she had ever seen. It spun slowly in the darkness, its surface covered in strange alien symbols that glowed with blue and green light. The arena was older than human civilization. It had been built by the Corthony people thousands of years ago, and since then, it had become the most important place in the galaxy for settling disputes. Maya touched the glass with her fingertips. In just a few hours, she would be inside that arena. She would be fighting for her life and for the future of every human being alive. "You're making a mistake," Captain Jake Morrison said behind her. Maya didn't turn around. She had heard this argument many times already. "Maya, listen to me. No human has ever been allowed in the arena." "There's a reason for that?" Maya finally looked at him. Jake was a good man and a good captain. He had gray hair and kind eyes, and he genuinely cared about his crew. But he didn't understand what was at stake. "The Zephyrians are demanding 20 billion credits," Maya said quietly. "That's more money than Earth has ever seen. If we pay them, every human colony will go bankrupt. Millions of people will starve. But if you die in that arena, nothing changes," Jake replied. "The Zephyrians still get their money. And we lose our best tactical officer," Maya smiled sadly. "If I die, at least I tried. If I don't try, we all die slowly." The argument had started 3 weeks ago when the Zephyrian Empire accused Earth of violating their territorial borders. A human mining ship had accidentally crossed into Zephyrian space while avoiding an asteroid field. The ship's captain had immediately apologized and left, but the damage was done. The Zephyrians were a proud warrior race. They had blue skin, stood 8 feet tall, and had natural armor plating that could stop bullets. They had been expanding their empire for centuries, and they saw humans as weak and primitive. The territorial violation was just an excuse to squeeze money out of Earth. Under galactic law, there were only 2 ways to resolve the dispute. Earth could pay the demanded compensation, or they could settle the matter through combat in the Corthony arena. The Zephyrians had chosen arena combat because they knew no human would be allowed to fight. The Galactic Council had made their position clear decades ago. Humans were too violent, too unpredictable, and too primitive to participate in the sacred trials. Every time Earth had requested permission to enter the arena, they had been denied, but Maya had found a loophole in the ancient laws. Any being who could prove they had studied the arena's history and understood its sacred purpose could request a trial by combat. Maya had spent every free moment for the past 3 weeks studying everything she could find about the arena and its traditions. "The other species think we're savages," Maya said, still looking out at the arena. "They think we solve everything with violence, but the arena isn't about violence. It's about proving your worth," Jake sighed. "Maya, you're 5 feet 4 inches tall and weigh 130 pounds. The last champion was a Krellian battle beast that weighed 600 pounds and had acid for blood. What makes you think you can survive in there?" Maya finally turned away from the window. "Because I'm human." It sounded simple, but Maya had spent months thinking about what that meant. Other species were stronger, faster, or smarter than humans. Some could breathe underwater, others could survive in the vacuum of space. But humans had something different. Humans adapted. When the environment changed, humans changed with it. When they faced a problem they couldn't solve with strength, they used their minds. When they couldn't use their minds, they used their hearts. And when all else failed, they refused to give up. Maya had trained for this moment her entire life without knowing it. She had studied 17 different fighting styles from Earth's history. She had learned to pilot ships, repair engines, and solve complex mathematical problems under pressure. She had trained her body and her mind to work together as one, but most importantly, she had learned to think like a human. "I've been monitoring the communications," said Lieutenant Ben Parker from across the room. "The Zephyrians are already celebrating." They think this is going to be easy, Maya nodded. That was exactly what she was counting on. The Zephyrians had won their last 12 arena battles by overwhelming their opponents with brute force. They had never faced anyone who fought like a human. Admiral Vextari is personally overseeing their preparation, Ben continued. He's brought half the Zephyrian fleet with him. He wants to make sure everyone in the galaxy sees what happens when someone challenges their empire. Good, Maya said. Then everyone in the galaxy will see what happens when someone underestimates humanity. Jake shook his head. Maya, I'm ordering you to reconsider. As your captain, I can't let you throw your life away on a suicide mission. Maya looked at him with respect, but also with determination. Jake, as your tactical officer, I'm telling you this is our only chance. The Zephyrians will never stop demanding money from us. Today it's 20 billion credits. Next year it will be 40 billion. They want to make us their slaves. She walked to the center of the room where a holographic display showed the arenas. Interior, the fighting space was enormous, with walls that could change shape and create different environments. Maya had memorized every possible configuration. The arena has 5 trials, she said, pointing to different areas of the display. Physical combat, problem-solving, psychological endurance, adaptability, and final judgment. Each trial is designed to test a different aspect of a species' character. Jake studied the display. And you think you can pass all 5? Maya smiled. I think I can do something no one expects. I think I can show them what it really means to be human. The ship's communication system crackled to life. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, please report to the shuttle bay. Transport to the arena will begin in 30 minutes. Maya took a deep breath. This was it. In 30 minutes she would leave the safety of the human ship and enter a world where her species had never been welcome. She would face opponents who were stronger, faster, and more experienced than she was, but she would face them as a human, and that made all the difference. Maya stepped out of the shuttle and into the arena's receiving chamber. The floor beneath her feet was made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft white light. The walls curved upward and disappeared into darkness above her head. She had never seen anything like it. A low humming sound filled the air, and suddenly the chamber was full of aliens. Maya tried not to stare, but it was impossible. She had seen pictures of other species before, but seeing them in person was completely different. The Zephyrians stood in a group near the far wall. They were even bigger than Maya had imagined. Their blue skin looked like armor, and their eyes glowed with yellow light. Admiral Vextari was easy to spot. He was the largest of them all, with scars covering his arms and chest. He was looking at Maya, and laughing. Near the Zephyrians stood a group of tall, thin beings with silver skin. Maya recognized them as Etherians. They were known for their intelligence and their ability to solve complex problems in seconds. One of them was studying Maya with curiosity, tilting its head like a bird. Other species filled the chamber. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Maya couldn't figure out how they moved or breathed. All of them were staring at her. Most looked amused, some looked confused, and a few looked angry. You are the human, said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Maya looked up and saw a massive crystal floating in the air above them. It pulsed with different colors as it spoke. I am the Korthani Arbiter. I will oversee your trials. Maya bowed her head respectfully. I am Lieutenant Commander Maya Rodriguez, representing Earth and all of humanity. I request trial by combat to resolve the dispute with the Zephyrian Empire. A crystal pulsed brighter. You understand that no human has ever been permitted to enter the arena? I understand, Maya replied. But I also understand that any being who has studied the arena's history and accepts its sacred purpose may request a trial. Indeed. And what do you believe is the arena's sacred purpose? Maya had prepared for this question, to prove that strength comes not from size or weapons, but from the courage to stand up for what is right. The Arbiter was silent for a long moment, then it spoke again. You may proceed, but know this, human. The arena does not judge based on species or size. It judges based on worth. If you are found wanting, you will not leave this place alive. Maya nodded. I understand. The floor beneath her feet began to glow brighter. The walls started to move and reshape themselves. Maya found herself standing in the center of a vast circular room. The ceiling was so high that she couldn't see the top. Around the edges of the room, platforms rose from the floor. The alien representatives took their places on these platforms to watch the trials. Admiral Vextari leaned forward on his platform. "This should be entertaining," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I have never seen a human before." "Are they all so small?" Some of the other aliens laughed. Maya ignored them. She had expected this. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, focusing on what she had to do. "The first trial begins," announced the arbiter. "You must navigate the maze of barriers. Many have tried, few have succeeded." The room around Maya transformed. Walls rose from the floor, creating a complex maze. But these weren't ordinary walls. They were made of pure energy, crackling with electricity. Between the walls, Maya could see beams of laser light moving back and forth in patterns. The air itself seemed to shimmer with heat. Maya studied the maze for a moment. She could see the exit on the far side, but getting there would require perfect timing and precise movements. One wrong step, and she would be fried by the energy barriers or sliced by the laser beams. Most species would approach this trial with caution, mapping out the safest route and moving slowly. But Maya had learned something from studying human history. Sometimes the best way to avoid danger was to move so fast that danger couldn't catch you. She ran. Maya sprinted into the maze, her small size allowing her to slip through gaps that would trap larger beings. When a laser beam swept toward her, she dropped to the ground and rolled under it. When an energy barrier blocked her path, she leaped over it before it could fully form. The watching aliens fell silent. Maya moved through the maze like water, flowing around rocks. She didn't fight the obstacles, she flowed past them. What should have taken minutes, she completed in seconds. She reached the exit and turned to face the arbiter. "Trial 1 complete," she said simply. The crystal pulsed with what might have been surprise. Indeed, the second trial begins immediately. The maze disappeared, replaced by a room filled with floating platforms and energy fields. In the center of the room was a complex machine with dozens of moving parts. Streams of deadly plasma shot from various openings in the walls. "You must solve the puzzle of elements," the arbiter explained. "You must manipulate the energy fields to activate the machine while avoiding the plasma streams. Most beings require their species' advanced technology to complete this trial." Maya looked at the machine. It was incredibly complex, with parts that moved in 3 dimensions and energy fields that shifted color and intensity. She had no advanced technology, no computer to help her calculate the solution, but she had something else. She had intuition. Maya began to move around the machine, watching how the parts moved in relation to each other. She noticed patterns that weren't immediately obvious. The energy fields weren't random, they were responding to the machine's movements. The plasma streams weren't just dangerous, they were part of the puzzle. Instead of trying to avoid the plasma, Maya began to use it. She guided the energy fields into the path of the plasma streams, using the interaction between them to power different parts of the machine. Within minutes, the machine was humming with power, all its parts working in perfect harmony. The watching aliens were no longer laughing. The Etherians, known for their problem-solving abilities, were staring at Maya with something approaching. "Respect, how did you solve it so quickly?" asked one of them. Maya smiled. "I didn't try to control the machine. I tried to understand it. Sometimes the best solution is to work with what you have instead of fighting against it." Admiral Vextari was no longer smiling. For the first time since arriving at the arena, he looked worried. He leaned over to another Zephyrian and whispered, "Something." The other alien nodded grimly. The arbiter's voice filled the chamber. 2 trials completed. The third trial will test your ability to face a superior opponent in direct combat. Are you prepared, human? Maya looked up at the crystal. "I'm ready." The room transformed once more. This time it became a simple circular fighting arena with a sandy floor. Across from Maya, a section of the wall slid open, and something stepped out that made her heart skip a beat. The Vorthic champion was 9 feet tall and covered in natural armor that looked like black metal. Its arms ended in claws that could slice through steel, and its eyes glowed red with killing intent. It had never been defeated in the arena. Maya looked at her opponent and smiled. This was what she had trained for her entire life. The real test was about to begin. The Vorthic champion stood perfectly still, studying Maya with its glowing red eyes. It had fought in the arena for 20 years and had never lost a single battle. Its claws were sharp enough to cut through spaceship hulls, and its armor was thick enough to stop plasma blasts. Maya was less than half its size. She carried no weapons and wore no armor. To every alien watching from the platforms above, this looked like an execution. Not a fight. Admiral Vextari leaned back in his seat, his confidence returning. Finally, we will see what happens when a human faces real power, he said to his companions. I almost feel sorry for the little creature. The Arbiter's voice echoed through the chamber. Combat trial begins. Victory goes to the being left standing. The Vorthic champion let out a roar that shook the walls. It charged forward, its massive claws extended, ready to end the fight in one devastating attack. Maya didn't run. She didn't panic. She watched. In the split second before the creature reached her, Maya saw everything she needed to know. The way it moved its left arm slightly before attacking. The way it favored its right leg when turning. The way its eyes tracked her movements with a tiny delay. These weren't weaknesses exactly. The Vorthic champion was incredibly strong and skilled. But they were patterns, and patterns could be used. Maya stepped to the side at the last possible moment. The creature's claws swept through empty air where she had been standing. Before it could recover, Maya was already moving again, circling behind it. The champion spun around, faster than anything that size should have been able to move. But Maya was already gone, rolling between its legs and coming up on its other side. The watching aliens began to murmur among themselves. This wasn't how arena combat usually worked. Most beings either tried to match their opponent's strength or use advanced weapons. Maya was doing something entirely different. She was fighting like a human. The Vorthic champion swung its massive fist downward, trying to crush Maya like an insect. Maya twisted away, letting the fist slam into the sandy floor where she had been. While the creature was off balance, she jumped onto its arm and ran up toward its shoulder. The champion tried to grab her with its other hand, but Maya was too quick. She leaped from its shoulder to its back, then to the ground behind it. Every movement was calculated, every step planned 3 moves ahead. "What is she doing?" asked one of the Etherians. "She's not even trying to hurt it." But Lieutenant Ben Parker, watching from the human ship's communication screen, understood perfectly. "She's not trying to hurt it yet," he said to Captain Jake Morrison. "She's learning it." Maya continued to move around the arena, always staying just out of reach of the champion's attacks. She was studying every aspect of how it fought. How it moved when it was angry. How it reacted when it was frustrated. How it changed its tactics when its initial attacks failed. The champion was getting more aggressive. It began to move faster, attacking more frequently. But Maya had already mapped out its patterns. She knew where it would strike before it did. After 5 minutes of this deadly dance, Maya finally stopped running. She stood in the center of the arena, facing the champion directly. The massive creature grinned, showing teeth like daggers. It thought the little human had finally given up. It raised both arms above its head, preparing to deliver a finishing blow that would crush her into the sand. Maya smiled back. When the champion brought its arms down, Maya wasn't there. She had rolled to the side and was already moving toward the arena wall. The creature's claws struck the ground so hard that they stuck in the sand. While the champion struggled to free its claws, Maya ran up the wall itself, using tiny handholds that most beings would never notice. She reached a metal beam that ran along the wall and grabbed it. The champion finally freed its claws and looked up at Maya with confusion. No opponent had ever used the arena structure as part of the fight. Maya swung from the beam like an acrobat, building momentum. At the Perfect moment, she let go and flew through the air toward the champion. But instead of attacking, she grabbed onto the creature's armored back and held on tight. The champion spun around wildly, trying to shake her off. But Maya had positioned herself in the one spot where the creature couldn't reach her with its claws. She rode the spinning champion like a wild animal, waiting for the right moment. The moment came when the champion stumbled, dizzy from spinning. Maya immediately jumped off and landed behind it. As the creature turned to face her, Maya did something unexpected. She attacked, but not with strength or weapons. Maya attacked with precision. She had spent the entire fight studying the champion's movements, and she had noticed something important. For all its armor and strength, the creature had one vulnerable spot. A tiny gap in its neck armor where the plates didn't quite meet. Maya leaped forward and struck that exact spot with her fingers, using a pressure point technique she had learned from Earth's martial arts. The champion's eyes went wide with shock, and it collapsed to the ground. Unconscious but unharmed, the arena fell completely silent. Maya stood over the unconscious champion, breathing hard but victorious. She had done something that no being in the arena's history had ever accomplished. She had defeated the Vorthic champion without seriously injuring it. Slowly, the aliens on the platforms began to stand up. First the Etherians, then the crystalline collective, then species after species. Even some of the Zephyrians rose to their feet. It wasn't applause. It was something deeper. It was recognition. The Arbiter's voice, when it came, carried a tone Maya had never heard before. Combat trial complete. Victory to the human. Never in the arena's history has a being shown such creativity in combat. Admiral Vextari was no longer laughing. His yellow eyes were fixed on Maya with something approaching fear. How? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Maya looked up at him. I didn't try to be stronger than it. I tried to be smarter. She walked to the center of the arena where the Vorthic champion was slowly waking up. She offered it her hand to help. It stand. The creature looked at her with confusion, then something like respect. It accepted her help and stood up slowly. You fought with honor, Maya said to the champion. I hope I did the same. The champion nodded once, then walked back to its chamber. Maya had not only defeated it, she had shown it something new about combat. Something about using intelligence and creativity instead of just brute force. The Arbiter spoke again. 3 trials completed. The 4th trial will test your mind's ability to withstand direct assault. Many beings have entered the neural field. Most have never emerged with their sanity intact. Maya nodded. She had expected this. The psychological trial was legendary throughout the galaxy. It was designed to break a being's spirit by forcing them to face their worst fears and greatest failures. I'm ready, Maya said, but as the arena began to transform around her, Maya realized that she wasn't just fighting for Earth anymore. She was fighting to show the galaxy what humanity could accomplish. When they refused to give up, the real test of her human spirit was about to begin. The arena changed around Maya once again. The walls became smooth and black, like mirrors that reflected nothing. The floor turned soft beneath her feet, and the air grew thick and heavy. Strange lights began to flash in patterns that hurt her. Maya knew what was coming. She had read about the neural field in the ancient arena records. It was a machine designed by the Korthani thousands of years ago to test the deepest parts of a being's mind. It would reach into her thoughts and pull out her worst memories, her greatest fears, and her most painful failures. The neural field will show you visions, the Arbiter explained. These visions will seem completely real. They will attack your mind with everything you fear most. If you can walk through the field and reach the exit, you will pass the trial. If the visions break your mind, you will remain trapped forever. Maya looked around the dark chamber. She could see a doorway glowing with soft light at the far end. It looked simple enough. All she had to do was walk across the room, but Maya knew it wouldn't be that easy. The neural field activated with a sound like thunder. Suddenly, Maya wasn't in the arena anymore. She was standing on Earth, in the middle of her hometown, but something was wrong. The sky was red, and smoke was rising from every building. Too late, said a voice behind her. Maya turned around and saw Admiral Vextari standing there, but he was twice as large as before. His yellow eyes glowed with satisfaction. You failed, human. Earth is burning because you weren't strong enough to save it. Maya watched in horror as her home burned around her. She could hear people screaming in the distance. She could see the bodies of everyone she had ever cared about lying in the streets. This is your fault, Vextari continued. You thought you could play with the big species, but you were wrong. Now everyone you love is dead. Maya felt tears running down her face. The vision was so real that she could smell the smoke and feel the heat from the burning buildings. For a moment she almost believed it was true, but then she remembered where she was. This wasn't Earth. This was the arena, and she was in the middle of the fourth trial. You're not real, Maya said to the vision of Vextari. None of this is real, the vision laughed. Real enough. This is what will happen when you fail. This is what will happen because you were too weak to save your people. Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, she was somewhere else entirely. She was back on the human ship, watching Captain Jake Morrison die in her arms. His eyes were full of pain and disappointment. You should have listened to me, Jake whispered. I told you not to go into the arena. I told you it was suicide. Now look what happened. Maya knelt beside him, feeling his blood on her hands. I'm sorry, Jake, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't bring back the dead, said another voice. Maya looked up and saw her entire crew standing around her. They were all dead, all staring at her with accusing eyes. You killed us all with your pride. The vision changed again. Now Maya was a child standing in front of her school. The other children were laughing at her, pointing at her and calling her names. She felt small and helpless, just like she had when she was 8 years old. You're nothing special, the children chanted. You're just a stupid little girl who thinks she can be a hero. You'll never amount to anything. Maya felt the same shame and hurt that she had felt all those years ago. She wanted to run away and hide. She wanted to give up and let the visions win. But then she remembered something her grandmother had told her when she was young. Maya, her grandmother had said, the most important thing about falling down is getting back up. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. What matters is that you keep trying. Maya stood up in the vision and faced the laughing children. You're right, she said. I'm not special. I'm just human. But being human means I don't give up. The vision began to fade. Maya found herself back in the dark chamber, but now she was closer to the exit. She had taken several steps without realizing it. The neural field tried again. This time, Maya saw herself as an old woman, sitting alone in a small room. She had failed at everything she had ever tried to do. No one remembered her name. No one cared that she had ever existed. You wasted your life, the vision of her old self said. You could have been safe. You could have been happy. Instead, you chose to throw everything away for nothing. Maya looked at the vision sadly. Maybe you're right. Maybe I will end up alone and forgotten. But at least I'll know that I tried to do something that mattered. The vision showed her more failures, more fears, more pain. Maya saw herself losing everyone she loved. She saw herself making terrible mistakes. She saw herself dying alone and afraid. But with each vision, Maya's resolve grew stronger. She realized that the neural field was showing her things that might happen or things that had already happened. But it couldn't show her one thing. It couldn't show her giving up. I'm human, Maya said to the darkness around her. That means I make mistakes. It means I get scared. It means I fail sometimes. But it also means I keep trying even when everything seems hopeless. The visions became more desperate. They showed Maya's friends and family begging her to quit. They showed her the easy path, the safe path, the path that would guarantee her survival. But Maya kept walking toward the exit. Each step was harder than the last, but she didn't stop. Why? Asked the voice of the neural field itself. Why do you continue when you know you might fail? Maya smiled through her tears. Because that's what humans do. We keep going even when we're afraid. We keep trying even when the odds are against us. We keep hoping even when hope seems foolish. The exit was just a few steps away now. Maya could see the real arena beyond the doorway. She could see the aliens watching her with amazement. You could have everything, the neural field whispered. Power, wealth, safety. All you have to do is turn around and walk away. Maya reached the doorway and turned back to face the darkness. I already have everything I need. I have the knowledge that I did my best. I have the hope that tomorrow might be better than today. And I have the courage to keep fighting for what I believe in. She stepped through the doorway and back into the arena. The neural field shut down behind her with a sound like a sigh. Maya had passed the fourth trial in record time. But more importantly, she had proven something to herself. She had learned that being human wasn't about being perfect. It was about being brave enough to try. Even when failure was possible, the Arbiter's voice filled the chamber, and for the first time it sounded impressed. Fourth trial complete. Never has a being moved through the neural field with such determination. Maya looked up at the watching aliens. Many of them were staring at her with expressions she had never seen before. They weren't looking at her like she was primitive or weak anymore. They were looking at her with respect. Admiral Vexthari was gripping the edge of his platform so hard that his knuckles had turned white. He was no longer the confident warrior who had entered the arena. He was beginning to understand that he had seriously underestimated the human species. One trial remains, the Arbiter announced. The final trial will test everything you are. Are you prepared, human? Maya nodded. She was tired, scared, and hurt. But she was also more determined than she had ever been in her life. I'm ready, she said. The final test was about to begin. The arena transformed one final time. The walls became pure white, stretching upward until they disappeared into infinity. The floor was smooth and perfect, like polished glass. Maya stood alone in the center of this perfect space, feeling very small and very human. The final trial, announced the Arbiter, will test the essence of what you are. You will face the guardian of the arena. It has protected this sacred place for 3,000 years. No being has ever defeated it. Maya looked around the empty chamber. Where is it? Her answer came as a shimmering in the air in front of her. Light began to gather and twist, forming into a shape that looked exactly like Maya herself, but this version was perfect. It stood taller, moved faster, and radiated confidence that Maya had never felt. I am the guardian, the perfect copy said, in Maya's own voice. I adapt to become the ideal version of whoever challenges me. I have all your skills, but perfected. I have all your knowledge, but expanded. I have all your determination, but without your human weaknesses. Maya stared at herself. This was impossible. How could she fight someone who was exactly like her, but better in every way? You understand now, the Guardian continued. You cannot win through strength because I am stronger. You cannot win through speed because I am faster. You cannot win through intelligence because I am smarter. How does a flawed being defeat perfection? The watching aliens leaned forward on their platforms. This was the trial that had stopped every challenger for centuries. The Guardian was unbeatable because it became the perfect version of its opponent, Admiral Vexthari watched with growing excitement. Finally, the human would fail. Finally, he would get his 20 billion credits and prove that humans were weak. Maya circled the Guardian slowly, studying it. The copy moved with fluid grace, matching Maya's movements perfectly but with impossible precision. Every step was calculated, every gesture was perfect. You move like a machine, Maya observed. I move like you, but without error, the Guardian replied. I am what you could be if you eliminated all your human flaws. Maya nodded thoughtfully. Show me. The Guardian attacked without warning, moving faster than Maya thought possible. But Maya was already moving too, not away from the attack, but into it. She had learned something important during her time in the arena. The Guardian's punch passed through empty air. Maya had dropped low and rolled between its legs, just as she had done with the Vorthok champion. But the Guardian adapted instantly. Spinning and kicking where Maya should have been, Maya wasn't there. She was already moving again, but not in any pattern the Guardian could predict. She was fighting like something the Guardian had never encountered before. She was fighting like a human who had learned to embrace her flaws. The Guardian tried to match Maya's movements, but something was wrong. Maya wasn't fighting like a perfect soldier anymore. She was fighting like someone who made mistakes and learned from them. She was fighting like someone who improvised and adapted not in spite of her limitations, but because of them. "I don't understand," the Guardian said, dodging one of Maya's attacks. "You're fighting inefficiently, you're wasting energy, you're making errors." Maya smiled. "I know." She threw a punch that was too slow and too obvious. The Guardian easily blocked it, but Maya had expected that. She used the Guardian's block to spin around and attack from a completely different angle. It wasn't a perfect move. It wasn't even a good move by traditional standards. But it worked because it was unpredictable. The Guardian tried to adapt, but it couldn't. It was designed to become a perfect version of its opponent, but Maya wasn't trying to be perfect anymore. She was trying to be human. "You're supposed to be trying to win," the Guardian said, frustration creeping into its voice. "I am trying to win," Maya replied, dodging another perfect attack. "But not the way you think." Maya began to fight in ways that made no sense. She left herself open to attacks, then used those openings to create opportunities. She made mistakes on purpose, then turned those mistakes into advantages. She fought with creativity and intuition instead of technique and precision. The Guardian became more and more confused. It could copy Maya's techniques, but it couldn't copy her ability to think outside the rules. It could match her knowledge, but it couldn't match her willingness to try things that shouldn't work. "Why aren't you fighting properly?" the Guardian demanded. Maya stopped moving and stood in the center of the arena. "Because proper fighting isn't what makes humans special." The Guardian prepared to attack, but Maya held up her hand. "Wait, I want to ask you something. In all the years you've been the Guardian, have you ever lost?" "Never," the Guardian replied proudly. "Have you ever been surprised?" The Guardian paused. "What do you mean? Have you ever faced an opponent who did something you didn't expect? Have you ever learned something new from a fight? Have you ever had fun?" The Guardian stared at Maya with confusion. "I am designed to win. That is my purpose." Maya nodded sadly. "That's the difference between us. You're designed to be perfect. I'm designed to grow." She walked closer to the Guardian. "You can copy everything about me except the most important thing. You can't copy my ability to be wrong and learn from it. You can't copy my willingness to fail and try again. You can't copy my hope that tomorrow might be better than today." The Guardian took a step back. "I don't understand." "I know," Maya said gently, "and that's why I've already won." She reached out and touched the Guardian's hand. "You're perfect, but you're also alone. You've never failed, so you've never learned. You've never been surprised, so you've never grown. You've never been imperfect, so you've never been truly alive." The Guardian looked down at Maya's hand touching its own. "What are you doing?" "I'm showing you what it means to be human," Maya said. "It's not about being the strongest or the smartest or the fastest. It's about being willing to connect with others even when they're different from you. It's about being willing to help even when there's nothing in it for you." The Guardian's perfect features began to change. For the first time in 3,000 years, it looked uncertain. "I was created to test worthiness through combat," it said quietly. "And you have," Maya replied. "But maybe there's more than one way to be worthy." The Guardian stood perfectly still for a long moment, then slowly it knelt down on one knee. "I yield," it said simply. The arena fell completely silent. Maya had done something that no being in the galaxy's history had ever accomplished. She hadn't defeated the Guardian through strength or skill. She had convinced it to surrender through compassion and understanding. The Korthani Arbiter's voice, when it came, was filled with wonder. "In 3,000 years, no being has ever... How did you know?" Maya looked up at the crystal. "I didn't know. I hoped." "That's what humans do. We hope for the best, even when we don't know if it will work." Slowly, one by one, The aliens on the platforms began to stand. First the Etherians, then the Crystalline Collective, then species after species. Even Admiral Vextari rose to his feet, his expression no longer one of anger, but of respect. The Guardian stood up and faced Maya. "You have taught me something I never knew existed." "Thank you," Maya smiled. "Thank you for letting me." "Admiral." Vextari stepped forward on his platform. "I withdraw all claims against Earth," he announced to the assembled representatives. "The Zephyrian Empire formally requests to establish diplomatic relations with humanity." But Maya wasn't finished. She turned to address the entire assembly. "I didn't come here to prove that humans are superior. I came here to prove that we belong. Every species in this galaxy has something unique to offer. The question isn't whether we're worthy of respect. The question is whether we're wise enough to respect each other." As Maya walked out of the arena, she carried with her not just victory, but something more valuable. She had shown the galaxy that strength came not from perfection, but from the courage to be imperfect and keep trying anyway. The galaxy would never be the same.